Greetings from the tower, everybody. Welcome to another week here of the Hearthstone Grandmasters of Season 2. My name's Frodan. I am joined by Mr. TJ Sanders, and together we're going to cover the last of the three regions to kick things off as we have another week of the 15.0.4 patch under our belts, and a lot's shaken up, or perhaps not much has changed at all. We'll see. TJ, how is your week so far?
It's going good. Yeah, I think as is a big trend for Americas, they tend to play it safe until they know for sure that the waters are safe for some out of left field decks. So it's kind of the same for last week for us. I wish we were casting Asia Pacific this week because they have some crazy nonsense.
That's right.
I want some crazy nonsense.
Yes, Asia Pacific has 13 out of 16 unique lineups last time I counted. I believe Americas has 5. A lot of the players end up being very similar. I think it may actually be 6. I'll have to go back and count. But either way, the diversity in Asia Pacific, you have a lot of range. In Americas, they want to play the good stuff. And I think there's a little bit of peer pressure because players are so vocal and you know, they value each other's opinions a lot, that it might end up being a little bit of an echo chamber, if you ask me. But you know, I'm not playing in Grandmasters, although I guess based off my criticisms, some of the players wish I played in Grandmasters so they could say the same things about me. Today is September 6th, 2019.
Ooh, let's see it. Let's hear it.
Today's schedule is Muzzy versus ETC, Frozen versus Just Saying, PNC versus Race, Monsanto versus Amnesiac, Firebat versus Purple, and today's facts.
Here we go.
In this day in history, Cal Ripken Jr. plays his 2,131st game consecutively. Keep in mind, there's 160-some games in the baseball season. This guy's played a lot of baseball games in a row, breaking the 56-year record by Lou Gehrig, in which in 2007, fans had voted that this was the most memorable achievement done in baseball history at that time. 2,131 games in a row, TJ. And you know what? On this day in history is my first day in a row that I've showed up on time for the Blizzard Arena.
One down, infinity to go.
That's right. It's like one day since the last incident where Frodan didn't show up on time. I apologize. This is my public apology to TJ Sanders. I left him hanging yesterday for rehearsals because I was caught up in a little bit of my own work. But
it's okay,
not to have my head too far up my own rear. TJ, I'm really sorry. Will you forgive me?
I will forgive you.
Great.
I will forgive you.
Well, that's a great start to the day, I'd say.
Yeah, we can,
a fact and an apology.
Yeah, and I love the baseball facts.
Yeah.
I would appreciate more baseball facts.
I was pandering to the crowd.
Cal Ripken Jr., third baseman.
That's right, for the Baltimore Orioles. Yeah. Wow. Look at you.
I mean, that was my childhood because he retired pretty early on in my childhood, I think.
Yeah, we were both pretty young.
Yeah. But still very fond memories of watching him when I was a wee little lad.
Half the battle is showing up, TJ, which we'll see if any of the Americas players can do exactly that, because some of them, they need to show up. The standings aren't looking very favorable to some of them as players are looking for either their first win or looking to see if they can pull themselves out of the dumps. Week 3, we're going to start to see – oh, actually, all of them have a win, excuse me. But week 3, we do need to see some movement. Eddie and Bloodyface topped standings with Frozen staying now get down all tied. But what's happening on the other side? I think in Division A, a lot of contests for spots 3 through 8 decided by 1 game difference.
Yeah, that's right. And interestingly enough, a lot of those players at the bottom face off against each other here in this week. And I'm really looking for, you know, just kind of a step up in play. I wouldn't call the play atrocious over the past couple weeks, but it's left a lot to be desired. Overall, on average, I wouldn't call it atrocious, but there have been some, you know, some pretty poor lines. I think some misreads on metas and some poor brings to the field. I think this week is pretty good as far as lineups are concerned. As we said, a little bit safe, but overall decent. So I'm looking to see a step up, especially the players at the bottom of the standing. Some of them obviously have some bad beats. That's going to happen. We're only in week 3, but the consistency is really what I'm looking for a lot of those players at the bottom this week.
That's right. The highs are very high. We've seen some really impressive play. The lows, whew, we're just going to blow past them and maybe call it out in the process. Today's featured deck list, by the way, which I am going to be calling a premature high, is Reno Hunter. Only one player in Americas decided to bring Reno Hunter this weekend. It is frozen, and I'm calling it now, TJ. It's the bring of the weekend because one of the most popular decks is Combo Priest. Only a handful of people decide to not bring it across all 48 Grandmasters. It's, I believe, second or third, very closely behind Warrior and Druid in terms of the most popular bring. And I think Highlander Hunter is getting a new take on life.
Yeah.
After the patch, people are like, Highlander Hunter is going to fall off the face of the planet. And because of its obscurity, because people aren't expecting it, I think it's great because it's going to design to kill Priest. It's been very effective. I think it has a lot of game against Warrior, so you don't even have to ban Warrior. I think the one thing you are worried about is Druid. And I think Druid is on everyone's radar given that it's the most popular deck of the weekend.
But I do think it's a great bring because if you consider the decks that Hunter's strong against, all of those decks are seeing kind of a resurgence of popularity. Obviously, Warrior's a big one. It's decent against Warrior. It's good against Priest and it's good against Mage. The players have shown for the past, 2 weeks, especially last week after the nerfs took place, that they're not shying away from Warrior. Players are still bringing Warrior. I think because of that, more players were starting to bring Reno Mage. I think we have the same amount this week, but there are a couple, and everybody is starting to bring Priest again. And Dan and I were talking about it before we went live today. Just overnight on at least the Americas Legend ladder, it's night and day the difference between how many Highlander Hunters you saw yesterday and how many Highlander Hunters I'm seeing today. It's almost like 50% plus of my ladder experience. So I think players are realizing that Hunter's a lot better than maybe they thought it was after, some of its natural prey kind of went away because they're coming back. They're repopulating.
The wheels are turning. You have the priests that are coming out and doing really well, pushing out the druids. Yep. But then you have the hunters now coming back out to try to prey on the priests. And then you have druids that might come back again. And that could be the cycle that we're in. We're throwing some warriors, throwing some zoo warlocks. Wait, isn't Quest Shaman really good? It is. And we're going to find out what ends up happening in our first match with Muzzy versus ETC, which we'll tell you all about when we return to the Hearthstone Grandmasters kickoff of Week 3 for Americas.
Esports is home to many competitive formats, each with their own unique variants and rules. Today, we're going to break down one of them, the Shield Phase Conquest format. And here's how it works. To start, both players bring 4 decks, each from a unique class. The match starts with a Shield Phase. This is where both players choose one of their own decks to protect, making it ineligible to be banned. Once the Protect phase has ended, both players will then ban one of their opponent's decks, removing it from the pool. Each player then selects which of their remaining decks they would like to play first, before beginning the first game of the series. When the first game of the series is over, the winner's deck is removed from their pool of eligible decks. Both players then select the next deck they would like to play. The loser of the first game can choose to replay with the deck they lost with, or they can choose one of their other 2 available decks. In Best of 3 conquests, the first player to 2 wins is the victor. In Best of 5 series, such as those in the semifinals or finals of major events, the first player that makes it to 3 wins takes the W. It's that easy. Shield Phase Conquest allows players to showcase their skill set across different classes, while still giving them the opportunity to play the deck they're most confident with. Now that you've got the download on Shield Phase Conquest, we wish you well on your deck building adventures.
The shadows are rising again, darker than they've ever been. As evil descends from the skies, the world cries out, how will we survive? Out of the hall of explorers, and up from the dusty tombs, they grab their whips and fedoras. These legends of the past know exactly what to do. There might be magic monsters, mummies in the markets, and ancient mysticism. There's surely scorching deserts, adventure, monster of narcissism. High stakes think annihilation, obliteration of civilization. Now is the time to be brave, evil's come to enslave.
Hearthstone Grandmasters Season 3 Season 3. Woohoo! We figured out how to time travel.
Getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here, Dan.
That's right. Bold of us to assume Season 3 is here, but Season 2, Week 3, is upon us. Muzzy versus ETC. And TJ, we're going to start things off with a little bit of a mirror, and we might be seeing a lot of them this weekend. But we have the Warrior, Druid, Priest, and Shaman, which I'm calling as the good decks. People are saying these are the decks that are most explosive. These have a lot of good matchup spread. I mean, if you look at it even just based off their power level, it seems like the four most powerful classes. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think they're all good brings, right? If you look at the decks across the board, it's just the good decks plus decks that don't really have too bad of matchups, but don't have too bad of matchups.
Look at this fancy graphic.
Oh,
why did we use just plain font? We need some curly calligraphy going on over here to signify the change. But here's a little breakdown. Of course, I'm done gushing over our production value. Combo Priest, Quest Druid, Quest Shaman. Here are some of the cards to look out for. Quest Druid with the Mossy Heart. What do you think about that, Teej?
I thought it was pretty interesting. You know, one of the things that Druid can struggle with sometimes is an extra way to clear wide board states. Starfall is such a premium resource in Druid, and especially against, say, Quest Shaman. You often don't want to expend a Starfall to deal with just a board full of 1/1s and 2/2s. You want to save those for like the big impacts where you're also pushing damage through, or where you're building a board and then able to clear off your opponent's board position. So it just kind of gives you some redundancy. And also, one big thing is that it can wreck Priest. Because a lot of time Priest has these small minions that are just kind of, you know, floating around the board waiting to be comboed. Because oftentimes you won't see a player go all in with a combo too early, and that gives you an opportunity to like kill a Northshire Cleric, a High Priest of Met, and a Lightworn all with one card. So I think if you look at two popular decks in the metagame, Priest and Shaman, that both often have boards that have very impactful low attack minions, Mossy Heart makes a lot of sense. We'll see if it comes out in practice, but it does make a lot of sense as an inclusion to me, given the current state of the metagame.
Yep, based off of that graphic, it looked to me like Muzzy's Warrior was banned, but we'll get all that information to you, given that players just started playing immediately. So you know what? I'm done waiting. Let's jam some Hearthstone. So we're going to jump straight into the first game here. ETC with a webcam appearance. Looks like he is back home. He was traveling, I heard, with his family. I believe even overseas. Yeah. Given a little bit of trouble to connect to his webcam, but now that he's back, he's to climb out of the hole. You know, 1-3 is not a great way to start the week. You just feel like you're negative. And remember, as we're going to constantly remind you dozens of times per weekend, relegation's on the line this season.
That's right. Be a pretty big deal. And I do want to give a shout out to ETC. I've been playing a lot of ladder games over the past couple of days and have seen him online and played against him many times over the course of the week.
Who won more?
Me. He beat me once out of like 7 games. A lot of Priest mirrors. A lot of Priest mirrors.
Oh, was it?
Yes. He's been practicing Priest quite a bit, and you can see that kind of reflected in his Protect. He protected his Priest.
Great.
So I hope to see some solid Priest play from ETC, given what seems like a lot of practice put into the deck. Warrior's going to be the choice for him in Game 1, though. I feel like players got enough practice with Warrior last season, as so many players brought it each and every week.
You'd think so, TJ, and yet we've been seeing some very questionable, which is a very generous way to put it, very questionable lines. Not too much to think about in that line, though. The Discover picking up our Megadillo with Zilliax and 2 more in hand. Already a great thing to pick up. Now, TJ, a lot of people say Warrior versus Priest. This is a matchup that Warrior feels pretty favored in. Has there been, you know, with the new inclusion of Bwan Samdi that Hunter Ray started, you know, at first I thought it was kind of a meme, but it ended up becoming reality, and then I was like, wow, this is actually really good. Does that change the matchup significantly, you think? Is it now better for Priest, or perhaps nothing has changed at all?
I want to lean closer to not really much has changed. Bwan Samdi does give you kind of a late game punch, and it is another threat that you need to remove, but so much of the game relies on the early game. And your early game has improved against some of the more board-centric decks, because Beaming Sidekick gives you a little bit extra way to all in early and also fight for more early. So I don't think too much has changed in regards to the Warrior matchup, but Bwonsamdi does give you a little bit of extra tools.
I got you, friend.
The extra arms going to 3 and only running 1 copy of extra arms did give you less snowball potential against the deck, but Bwonsamdi does give you more longevity. So it's kind of a trade-off, but I think all things considered, it's basically a a 1-for-1 trade when it comes to the overall matchup. But Muzzy on the board pretty aggressively early. Got the Northshire Cleric at 5 health and the injured Tolbir.
What now?
So in a good position, but needs to find some powerful follow-ups, because the longer you give Warrior, the more time do they have to assemble all those removals. Brawl, Plague of Wrath, Super Collider, Warpaths.
Yes, I do want to make a quick clarification, by the way. I misread the document that was sent to us. Muzzy is not playing Warrior. He's playing a no Warrior lineup, which I think is kind of the central focus for a lot of lineups this weekend. He instead of Warrior, he's choosing to play OTK Paladin. So that was a misspeak from my end. If the Warrior was not banned, the Paladin was banned, which was a high respect choice. I apologize if you said that actually, TJ.
I did not, no.
But either way, definitely interesting stuff going into this entire matchup head-to-head, because Warrior seems to be a really central focus for a lot of people's lineups. And yet, people not even bringing it whatsoever. Definitely something worth thinking about.
Yeah.
All right, so ETC with a pass. Oh.
Yeah, that's an interesting hold. He wants to set up for a brawl, because he had an option to coin out Restless Mummy there and clear off everything but the Northshire Cleric. But I think ETC realizes if he's going to have to brawl on 5 anyway, then he doesn't want to spend time using Restless Mummy and the coin in order to still give Northshire Cleric some card draw. So it makes some sense, but what it also does is when you pass like that, it gives your opponent a pretty big read that you do have brawl. And so Muzzy gonna take the time to draw cards, not develop anymore, not make himself too weak to the brawl, because he's got 2 good targets that could survive from this, the Northshire Cleric, which is the best, or Injured Tolbir, which is decent. So I like the play here. And this should be a coin brawl from ETC. Yeah,
yes.
Pretty telegraphed play based off of his pass on turn 3.
Yeah, I mean, there are some outcomes here, though, that are bad for ETC. Okay, not the worst outcome for Muzzy, but definitely not the greatest, and we'll see how Psychopomp can reinvigorate Muzzy's board, but perhaps he wants to play more mana efficiently as well.
Yeah, a lot of times if an early brawl comes out, it can be pretty difficult to come back in the game, just because you usually have to invest a lot into your early boards as priests in the matchup, because if you don't pressure, it just gives them more time to find their removal.
Yeah.
You kind of have to force out like a brawl on 5 in almost every scenario. But if you don't have the reload to back it up, you're going to get pushed out of the game real quick. He does have good reload, actually. Injured Blade Master, plus a heal on the Injured Blade Master protects you from Restless Mummy. You're protected from Ziliax. Dynamatic doesn't really have much of an impact. Whoa, okay.
This still is good against Restless Mummy. Heal.
Still good against Restless Mummy.
And he gets more damage now.
Sure.
It isn't an investment in damage in the future.
Yeah. The one thing that it would play into would be Plague of Wrath, because you'd have 2 damaged minions on board, and that would be essentially his last guaranteed threat. So I think he didn't want to be too vulnerable to Plague of Wrath. He wants to force ETC, if he does have Plague of Wrath, to use it right now on this big minion, or risk taking probably way too much damage. But again, we talked about it last week. Priest does not have ways to close out games. No matter how far ahead they are, if they keep losing their 1 or 2 threats on board over and over again, the warrior can be at 1 health, and they have no way to bridge that gap. No Holy Ripple, no direct damage in most of these decks. So it's just about trying to protect each individual threat as much as possible. And that's why I end up liking this play more from Muzzy.
Okay, well then what does ETC do in this position? Is he just trying to weaken this foray? Is he just trying to put stuff in the way? He chooses the Ziliax. Ziliax no attack, which makes silence really effective. Oh, okay. There is some interesting stuff here with Muzzy's hand. Northshire Cleric does give Muzzy card draw for the access of 3 mana, and should he pick up Circle of Healing, he is going to be in for a full hand pretty soon. Because if he picks up Circle of Healing, he can go Wild Pyromancer Silence.
Oh.
Into Circle of Healing!
Dan, are you a wizard?
I wish. Still waiting for my invitation letter and a giant bearded man to appear at my door and telling me, that is a huge draw! And that I'm a wizard.
The wizard part is secondary, obviously.
We only have part of that.
Wow. 4 cards picked up, Bwansamdi included.
This is bad for ETC.
Yeah.
This is real bad.
Yeah.
At least Muzzy does not have High Priest of Met. I feel like when you get Bwansamdi into High Priest of Met, and you have all these 1-drops that collect a bunch of health buffs because of a Met, it starts to get real ugly.
Yeah.
Especially because Brawl's been used, so
yeah.
there's less removal tools for the Warrior. And it is something they call into question. One thing that Admirable was talking to me about, speaking of, or Hagrid. Admirable was telling me, well, 1, that I'm not a wizard, but 2, why aren't people playing more Plague of Wrath? It feels like it's a much better situation, like setup to go wide removal, because with Warrior, you're often playing things get head on board. Remember, we saw that Warrior was playing a 1-drop into a 2-drop into Plague of Wrath, and I feel like it's because most decks are trying to power load into things like the Northshire Cleric. What do you feel like, DJ?
Well, Europe's kind of ahead of the game on that one. There's actually quite a substantial amount of players in Europe who have a copy of Whirlwind and double Plague of Wrath in their Warrior decks. I think there's 3 or 4.
I think it's good.
I think it's great, too. I think players are often trapped in this mindset that Whirlwind's not good enough of a card, and my Warpaths are too premium of a card to use them with Plague of Wrath. Because if you run 2 Plague of Wrath and just 2 Warpath, then your opponent has to damage their own minions, which happens a good amount of the time, or you have to expend a Warpath. But I think it's just, in the current metagame, you kind of need that additional removal, especially against Priest and Druid.
Look how much Muzzy was able to generate through the Injutovir that survived.
Yes.
And, you know, while, granted, the Northshire Cleric that was a 7/7 wasn't damaged, it's the idea that Brawl has its drawbacks, and it's not completely reliable. So, you know, tough situation for ETC. Big hand for Muzzy, and he's drawn 9 more cards than ETC. And ETC finally has a chance to, you know, maybe drop that Armageddon that goes into big stuff, but he's already used Iliax. And even if he curves out to Tomb Warden, he could just die.
Yeah, it's kind of a brutal situation, but honestly, Muzzy's hand's kind of awkward. He has 1 spell, and it's More Arms. Everything else is a minion. So he doesn't have either of the Divine Spirits, second Inner Fire, Power Word Shield, second Circle of Healing. The majority of his bottom 10 cards are spells.
He is missing the most important minion that makes all of these minions come together, which is High Priest of Met. It makes Psycho Pop and the 1-drops really powerful.
Yeah. So in his bottom 10, he has 7 spells, High Priest of Met. And both Nephroset Ritualists? And another minion drawn, so Muzzy, while he can keep plowing onto the board here, he doesn't have a way to capitalize on it. But the average draw on his deck can help capitalize on it. He has both Divine Spirits, Inner Fire, Double Power Shield, Topsy-Turvy, Circle of Healing.
The end begins.
Cycle Bump!
2 Northshire Clerics die. One of them gets revived.
Ooh.
Prior to this as well, Muzzy had, I think he had the injured Tovir and he had Northshire Clerics. And that was all that was dead. Everything, and the Beaming Psychic, number 2.
And Wild Pyro.
And a Pyromancer. So a decent amount of minions that were dead.
I've got more left in me.
Neverset Ritualist drawing cards. Get another big moment here for Muzzy getting that card draw. All right, Topsy-Turvy, which means that Divine Spirit now becomes a massive threat. And ETC does not have good ways to deal with this. Tomb Warden puts out 12 life, so he'd go effectively at 28. Just counting to see if there's a way for Muzzy to lethal beyond that. I think he might be able to if he get past both of them efficiently.
He can. He would just attack Bwonsamdi into one, the 3-1, 1-3, and 2-3 into the other. Beaming Sidekick, Divine Spirit, Topsy-Turvy is exactly 16. So he's got lethal through this. He's got even more than lethal through this, even if he just plays 2 Morden. And I think ATC's kind of realizing it and saying, can I gain more health? No.
No, and you know, for his sake, he probably would have to bump the 1-2 into the 2-6 taunt, just so he can reduce the health on Muzzy's minions. And that's going to be it. As long as Muzzy spots the correct ordering. I mean, Circle of Healing just also adds insult to injury because Muzzy can draw more cards even and get the combo pieces. But Muzzy should have lethal here.
Yeah, it's actually pretty easy.
You trade everything in to get past the taunts except for the minion in the middle, the 2-6 taunt, Injure Tolvir, and then you extra arms, Divine Spirit, and Topsy-Turvy. That's the order you talk.
You can even just Beaming Sidekick, Divine Spirit, Topsy-Turvy.
Yeah, sorry, Beaming Sidekick also.
Yeah, so it's
and
one of the easier priest-lethal puzzles.
Yeah, and I mean, ETC also knows that he's 11 cards, like Muzzy's 11 cards deeper, so.
He's 6 cards left in his deck. What's the likelihood that you dodge lethal in this position?
Yeah, either Divine Spirits, Topsy-Turvy, or Inner Fire. Chances are very high. Ooh, hold on. I mean,
Quickly. Hey, I got you, friend.
Muzzy. Is he going for some elaborate BM lethal? He's drawing for the Inner Fire. I respect it. He gets it.
Entirely unnecessary.
I mean, yeah.
But he gets there, and that's the important part.
It's the tilt factor, TJ.
Sure.
It's the tilt factor. But you know what? If Muzzy wins, we'll ask him.
Yeah.
We'll ask him.
I mean, Topsy-Turvy is the lesser used lethal option, so sometimes players tend to just skip over it in their minds and are like, I need the Inner Fire now, or I lose.
They tunnel a little bit, but
that's why the Topsy-Turvy's there.
Even if he didn't get it, let's say he drew and he's like, I don't have it. He's like, oh wait, I have Topsy-Turvy. Would have gotten it. It was perfect.
I hope so. I really hope so. After all the things that we've been saying over the past few days, I really hope so.
Muzzy's such a jerk, just trying to tilt his opponent and just like be really rude.
Yeah.
Obviously not. Muzzy's one of the nicest people you ever meet. We're going to take a break, our first break for today. And when we come back, we're going to see if Muzzy can close out the series 2-0 and send ETC's record back down to the dumps.
My name is Fei Liang, and my handle is ETC. Getting Grandmaster, that means it could make up the time I sacrificed. So that's really pretty cool. That means I could do the thing that I want to do, I like to do.
Mazahidul Islam. I go by Muzzy in-game. The thing that I most look forward to about competing in Grandmasters is the thrill of the competition. I took a look at the list of players. I've participated at the highest levels of competition that they might not have appeared in, so I think I have the advantage there in terms of experience. I'm the player to beat in my group, for sure.
Most of the time I play Hearthstone after work. Normally I play with my kids for an hour. Actually, my son plays Hearthstone sometimes. He got rank 9. Yeah, he likes Zoo list. I think the style I like the most is combo deck because there are a lot of win conditions and there are a lot of ways you can win the game. Getting #1 in Grandmaster is gonna totally change my life. I think it proved myself and my kids are gonna be proud of me.
I think my X factor is definitely my ability in game to adapt to different situations, and I think Hearthstone Instinct is definitely my greatest skill set. I think that if I took a break for a while and came back to new cards, I think I could pilot a new deck fairly well, fairly quickly. I think respect only goes so far. At the end of the day, it's usually about the title. People don't, remember the names of, oh, he was a good player, they respected him. Oh, how do you finish? He didn't make it out of groups and worlds? What? I definitely want to have more titles and put my name in Hearthstone history.
Game number 2 between Muzzy and ETC will be a Shaman versus the Priest. Quest Shaman having a lot of popularity on ladder, given that it's one of the most fun decks out there, but perhaps a little bit overshadowed by the hype that is around Priest. A lot of people are protecting Priest, they're banning Priest, or sometimes doing both. That being said, Quest Shaman, I believe, at least from what I scattered from Asia Pacific, I've yet to finish out all the protects and bans. Quest Shaman was common ban and pick last week, TJ. I don't think it's been done so far this week. I have to go back and verify across Europe.
Yeah, well, I think Priest kind of throws a wrench in that plans, because I do think Priest is favored in this matchup. The Shaman, outside of them having a crazy fast start, and Priest kind of missing their early starts, Shaman doesn't have ways to deal with those big minions outside of like Discovers from Ethereal Lackey. It's kind of brutal if, as the Priest, you can stick an early minion. The Shaman's only way to deal with it is just by attacking minions into it. A lot of players have cut or shot from their list, Muzzy included, so it can be difficult to kind of come back on board. And as long as the Priest plays around that mind control tech there, it's going to be smooth sailing. But things can change. The Shaman does have ways to get a lot of value, and they can have fast starts. But I do think Priest is favored, and Muzzy was kind of in a difficult situation, and I do like the queue of Priest here for ETC, because out of Muzzy's remaining decks, he has Shaman and Druid, which are both decks that are pretty weak to Priest. So even though ETC lost that first game, it did open him up to a situation where he has a good chance of taking this to Game 3. But we'll see. He did miss his first couple of plays. He doesn't have the Circle of Healing to follow up on injured Blade Master. So maybe Muzzy has an opportunity here to get some things rolling.
Yeah, Quest Shaman with the Evil Totem being a core minion in order to get all those battle cries generated. Cobalt Lackey and a Faceless Lackey, some pretty decent stuff. Faceless Lackey pretty solid as a way to actually make Flesh Shaper even cheaper. But this is not what you want to see. The injured Blade Master Circle of Healing, very difficult to remove.
Yeah.
Faceless Lackey gets Venomizer. Surprisingly, I feel like there's so many weak and understated 2-mana minions right now, excuse me, that I'm pretty happy to see a 2-3
yeah,
opted from the Faceless Lackey.
2-3 is good. And ETC kind of fortunate to pick up the Circle of Healing there, or else this board would kind of snowball out of control, honestly. Muzzy would be able to efficiently trade over this 4-3, and ETC would most likely have trouble dealing with it. And now, ETC, double Divine Spirit Inner Fire. Not available this turn, but if he wanted, he could heal up the injured Blade Master, Divine Spirit, hit face, bring Muzzy down to 26. Next turn, he could never set Ritualist if Muzzy put damage into this. Divine Spirit and Inner Fire for 28. So if he hits face here, it's a 2-turn lethal setup outside of a taunt minion or like a Life Drinker.
That's just what Priest does, right?
Yeah. So we could be seeing a quick game here unless Muzzy is able to find something that can help him out. Another option is to no, actually, Muzzy's dead.
Well, I mean, assuming
he has to Youthful Brewmaster the Faceless Lackey and get a taunt. Or Evil Cable Rat into a Titanic Lackey. Nope, he has Silence. This is a 100% win for ETC?
double taunts?
He needs double taunts? How? I don't think there's a way to get double taunts.
Drink with me, friend.
He's even bouncing the Kobold Lackey.
All right, a turn 5 win for ETC.
Mortals are so squishy.
Wow.
Wait, can he kill it?
Oh, he can. Wow.
Whoa, okay, Muzzy spotted the only play that I didn't spot, which was the only way to actually fully clear off. Exactly. I'd initially counted that, and I'd have counted exactly 13.
Nicely done. It's because he used the Youthful Brewmaster.
He used the Youthful Brewmaster to rush. Yeah, I counted exactly 13 when I initially counted that, so I was off, and he would have been dead. Apologies. I called that 100% win for ETC, but Muzzy, way smarter than I am, can count to 14 much better than I can.
Sorry, from the early years of Hearthstone, counting to 14. Real key. Nicely done by Muzzy to go for the clear. ETC went from what felt like a 100% win rate to, you know, now I wonder, how does he win this game?
Yeah, it was a good setup from ETC.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, double Divine Spirit, Inner Fire, Silence with the Ritualist to heal back up. All things pointed towards ETC all-inning and trying to go for that early win.
Double time and double pay.
And now, with such board dominance, even if it was just 1-1 for the rest of the game, I don't know how ETC gets there without Wild Pyromancer and Circle of Healing with the Northshire Cleric.
Yeah.
He needs to draw specifically those 2 cards, or this is what we're talking about. Bwansamdi in this position would also put him back in the game.
It could, but at this point, Muzzy might just be too far ahead. He completed the quest early. He dealt with the massive minion.
You belong to the bar.
Even going to go for just more value here, foregoing the hero power this turn and going with just the Evil Totem plus a Lackey. Just putting some stats on board and kind of investing into this hero power for the future turns. And also more health, for, like you mentioned, some crazy Wild Pyromancer shenanigans might give ETC some semblance of a chance, but that's not Plum Somdi, but
that's not Wild Pyromancer either.
Yeah, and out of the 2 options, gets the Never Set Ritualist.
Wow, Concede ETC says, you got me. I can't really beat that. Muzzy with the nicely calculated clear.
Yeah.
To wrap up that series. And I think it goes to show you 2 things. One, Muzzy's on point. Don't doubt him.
He is.
Second is that Priest is a very much feast or famine strategy, and a lot of times you have to be willing to live with the consequences, because a lot of times we see that play work out. We saw at the end of the previous series of Europe, where Clento was like, well, I'm just all in on this minion, and it worked out.
Yeah.
If Viper got the clear on that, he would have been able to beat Clento.
Yep.
But, you know, in this case, ETC gets cleared, and he's done for.
Yeah, and Muzzy, I like the... It leads me to believe that the not topsy-turvy in Game 1 was BM.
We'll ask.
After that
now
showing.
we get to ask him.
That was crisp.
That's right.
Making me look dumb in a crisp way.
Well, that's the way we want it
Yeah.
to happen. We want to. Well, no, we don't want to look dumb, but we
want
want the
to look
players
dumber.
to look smart.
We want to look dumber than they are.
Yes.
Because then that makes them look smarter than we are.
Right. It's intentional.
Yeah. That's right.
Purposeful.
Yeah.
We're trying to look dumb. Joke's on you guys. All right, so we're going to try to get Muzzy on the line for an interview, and it looks like he's ready. So let's go ahead and check in with him. Muzzy there?
Yeah, what's up?
All right, so quick victories, straight up 2-0. Were you expecting the series, at least before it started, to shake out that way? Pre seems to be a really popular Protect, but did you expect the Paladin ban right there and then?
The Paladin ban, I mean, it's a bit unexpected, but I'm pretty sure everyone in the league can do anything. Like, you can mix up your bans, change different stuff. You just don't want to be readable. You just don't want to do the same thing over and over again. A lot of the decks have similar matchups, and I think like a lot of series are a lot closer than they appear, even if they go 2-0.
Do you mean similar matchups, as in similar win percentages, or in
Yeah,
terms of how you
similar
approach
win
it?
rates.
Got it.
Similar win rates.
Got it. I noticed that you're growing a little bit of facial hair back. You're patching it together. Is it just with each win, more follicles just start, emerging from above the lip? Is that what's happening here?
No, I just woke up a bit later this morning and decided in bed and didn't shave, so it'll be gone by tomorrow's match.
No. You only shave once you lose, and then if you never lose, it just becomes this overwhelming force.
If you end 12-2, we're going to be at handlebar mustache stage, I think.
Great.
Okay. I promise tomorrow, no shave.
Okay.
Sweet.
I'll continue.
It's less work for you, so.
Yeah.
Muzzy, in game number 1, you end up going for a Circle of Healing draw to get the Inner Fire for lethal.
Yeah, I had the Topsy for lethal anyways. I was like, what am I doing? And then I saw the Inner Fire and the Topsy, and I'm like, okay, it's lethal. I just got more practice with like hard board states with the deck. So like the deck's pretty difficult when you encounter board states like that. So getting more practice in those situations. Like if I didn't have lethal, knowing what to go for. It's good.
Yeah.
I just overlooked the Topsy.
I think you had a quest in your quest log that you saw, which was play priest cards. And so I think that's what you were finishing.
Yeah.
That's what we were going to say. All right, well done, Muzz. Your next opponent is Gallon. Any thoughts going up against him?
Gallon's a very strong player. He brought good decks. It's going to be an interesting matchup. I mean, we have sort of similar lineup, but the priest, whoever can get ahead early, I think in the series will end up taking it. I went up ahead against ETC, and I was able to sort of dictate the matchups for like the next few games, and I ended up getting the win with the Shaman. Shout out to Brewmaster, by the way, the 2-mana 3/2, being able to clear the
yeah. He had lethal, by the way, like a few times over.
Master.
He had lethal through a taunt because his hand was
Silence.
Silence, Divine Spirit, Nephroset Ritual, Inner Fire. So no matter how much damage you sunk into it, or if you had a taunt, it was 100% lethal unless you found the clear. And I called it 100% lethal. And then you found a way to kill it. So
nicely done.
Well done,
I
Muzz.
looked for it very hard. It was tough.
Well done. Hard-earned victory. Very quick though, but we'll take it. Good job, Muzz, and good luck in your match against Gallon tomorrow.
All right. See you guys.